Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize if you can't hear me. I'm a little under the weather. Mayor Bateman, you're on the speakerphone?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Mayor Bateman's here. I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Board Member Faircloth McCormick.
Here.
Board Member Maldonado.
He's in the building, so I don't know where he is, but he's in the building.
Board Member Shelley.
Here.
Board Member Warman.
Here.
Board Member Williams.
Present.
Vice Chairman Burgess, absent. Mayor Bateman.
Here.
At this time, I'll turn the presentation over to our CRA Director.
Good evening, members of the board. Tonight we're going to be discussing the list of proposed CRA projects. We're going to be talking about possible funding options. We are really looking for eventually some direction from the board on the ambitions for the projects within the CRA. We do know from our previous presentation that we have about $5.3 million in cash to allocate towards certain projects. We have a list that on the high end is about $27 million. We really want to start getting a feel about some of the particular projects and basically the outlook from the board 1 year through 5 years. The slide that we have up is just a listing of all of the proposed projects. I'll just read through them quickly. I will not give you the entire presentation. We discussed Pump Station 1, which we estimate to cost about $500,000. Blakey Park renovations, $450,000. The Seminole Theater renovations, we have a range between $3.5 million and $6 million. Downtown parking garages, a range of $4.5 million to $6 million. The Flagler lot for $425,000. We have blight removal, $150,000. Washington Avenue Phase 2, about $1.9 million. Southwest 4th Streetscape and roadway improvements, about $1 million. West Maui Drive sidewalk repairs and improvements, $200,000. Chrome Avenue improvements, $675,000. West Campbell Drive streetscape and roadway improvements, $4 million. And West Homestead Elementary, again, we have a range between $4 and $6 million. With that, we'd like to give it to the board to start some discussion.
I'll open the discussion. It's my understanding that the Pump Station 1, that we can take funds from another entity. Julio, can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Councilwoman Judy Woman. Yes, Pump Station 1, there are several other funding sources that we could use for that one. From the Enterprise Fund, we have monies set aside to do some of that work. Also, the idea was to prorate the cost of the project with the cost relating to the capacity that's within the CRA area to be allocated by the CRA, and the rest of the cost to be allocated by city funds. But there is some flexibility there in terms of how much we use from each one of the two funds.
So you're saying that it's not possible to use the entire amount of money that's needed, or it is possible?
You're talking from an enterprise fund? We could handle the whole amount, yes.
So I'd like to, at this time, open that up for council discussion, Mayor, if that's all right with you?
Yes, please.
Because if we can eliminate, $500,000, then that gives us more money to do other things. So any discussion or questions about that?
Through the chair, I think that's a wonderful idea, considering we have several projects and obviously our costs exceed what we have fundings for. So I think it's very important for us to be creative to determine various or alternative funding sources for these projects. So I think that's a wonderful idea of the fact that we have an alternative source for that pump station.
Any other comments? No? Because this is a workshop, I assume that it's appropriate for us to give some direction. So I don't, is a vote necessary? Okay, so, okay. So from the consensus of comments or lack of comments, is it in everyone's agreement to move forward with the enterprise fund?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Julio, that money is allocated for that and that only? Is that, I could barely hear that at the beginning. Is that what you were saying? At 500,000?
We all need to speak up so the mayor can hear, because the machine kind of...
Yeah, it's very, very light, but I was
Yes.
saying that 500,000, typically on pump stations, don't we typically have whoever is building in the area, don't they contribute and or pay for those pump stations?
That is correct, but in this case, this is an existing pump station, and really the incremental capacity that is needed there would be very minimal in terms of cost allocation per se to a developer. So the city would have to put a lot of the money themselves to get this pump station to where it should be. This is, if not, I believe this is the oldest pump station that the city has, and it's in need for some repairs and also improvements in terms of capacity. But we do have funding set aside on the enterprise fund if we needed to do that by ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor, were you able to hear him and get your question answered?
No, I heard what he basically
Okay.
said. What I was trying to do is tie it to what I've seen in the past, to where whoever was building in that area or near that area actually contributed to the upgrade of that pump station. And I'd hate to see us spend money that we could be using somewhere else if you know, there's something that we see coming down the pipe that is going to be built near there or there and needs additional flow, therefore they pay for it.
Okay, so it's the consensus then of the dais that we move forward with the enterprise fund, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Rick, do you want to talk about, you're just opening it up, should I just go down the list, or what should we do?
I guess we'll just go down the list, and I can give you a brief description of what each one is quickly. Blakely Park renovations. This is a park in the southwest. We'd be looking at doing general upgrades. The staff looked at what's been done in other parks throughout the city. So, you know, they kind of said, well, this is what we've done. We kind of put some pieces together. It's not a final design. If this is something that you'd want to move forward with, we'd come back to the board with design specs and get your feedback. But this would be installing 2 playgrounds, a couple of pavilions, resurfacing and striping the track, installing sidewalks, putting artificial turf under the playgrounds, some fitness stations, and where there are no playgrounds, some new grass on the field. We've estimated this would cost about $450,000.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Williams?
Yeah, this is, I actually brought this up to Rick and the city manager for Blakely Park to be redone. The residents in the southwest, they really enjoy the track around there, but I felt that it has not been, you know, kind of maintained, and I think it's pretty much time to really kind of upgrade that particular park, because most of the persons, they walk around there early in the morning, but if we had enhanced the park, it will definitely benefit the residents of that area.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Shelley?
Thank you. Just for clarification, this park is the one that's on, is it Redland Road?
Right.
At the corner of Redwood and 4th.
And that's where, is that where Powell is as well? It's right in front of there? Okay.
Huh?
Okay. Mr. McCormick?
This is a question. You mentioned maintaining the track, which I really think it needs. Can that fall under the Parks and Recs Department's budget? I know it's within the Southwest and the CRA. I'm just trying to think outside of the box. I'm a proponent of it, and I feel it needs to be, you know, enhanced. But can it fall under Parks and Rec?
I was under the understanding that Park and Recs really didn't have any funding to really upgrade. That's why it's been the way it is now. And so
Mr. Williams, the Blakey Park has been under the police department
I understand.
for many
I know the
years.
history of it.
Yeah,
I know
well,
history.
but maybe the others, maybe some of the people in the audience don't. And it's been under the police department for many years, and the forfeiture funds have now become so low that it's just not being taken care of. I personally think that this park is one of the busiest parks in the city, and I think that they deserve the same amenities that the other parks do. But Dennis, you want to go ahead and give a report on that?
Sure. Councilwoman McCormick, this project, when I went ahead and went out for it, it was asked to me to look into what we can do to the park, and like Councilwoman Waldman said, the police department does take care of that park. The estimate I got for the track was through Streets and Stormwater Supervisor at the time, and that was just to redo the track with new asphalt and striping was $50,000. We do have some money in impact fees. I'd have to look at it, but with our CIPs coming up, that will show you that what we have planned for park improvements in the city. Yeah, I really have to look into that because there's some situations we have to look into.
The one thing I'd like to clarify is if there are certain projects here that you decide, well, maybe not CRA, but maybe there's other sources we should look at, we'll be before you in another month or two with the full capital improvement plan, and then you'll see probably 10 times more. I think our number was up to 200 million, 150, somewhere around there. So we have a whole bunch of other things, and we'll go through them. And then, so if you decide how you want to slot this one into the 5-year plan, and then we can do it that way. But again, I think what we're trying to drive tonight is this a candidate for CRA funding, or do you want to move it to another category? And that would apply to everything on the list.
Mr. Maldonado?
I know as I traveled with Naleo a few times, I know that there were many parks that were underutilized and not built out, where there was some funding that they got through, I forgot the source exactly, but you know, throughout the United States, we've seen through Naleo has been a proponent of creating healthier lifestyles in communities that where they don't have parks, and you know they have parks right now. So I guess the idea that I want to throw out there is that what resources do we have, or have we gone out to try to find any of these? And maybe I can just dive into their, you know, I can make a call to them, see how they make it happen. But basically, funding to revamp these parks and make them help them out.
On all of the funding questions on all of these projects, I think what the direction that we're looking for is, once you say this is an important project for us, then we try to figure out, and then you say either CRA or some other funding source, then we try to figure out, okay, you want this done next year, you know, year one of a 5-year capital improvement plan, then we try to figure out what's our best shot at funding. But one thing is clear is we know we have $5.5 million that's available, and so anything above and beyond that would be speculative, and we'd have to then pursue alternatives. So if this was your number one priority and you wanted to use CRA funds, then we'd slot that in, and then the next project, if you said, well, that one is more tentative, then we'd start looking at funding sources for that. Because for all these projects, we certainly have, you know, looking for grants is one option, looking for financing is another option, looking at other funds. So each one of these involves a whole lot of different permutations, and it's just a function of first understanding what your priorities are, and then we could go the route that you'd like us to.
You finished? Mayor, do you have any? Oh, well, let me ask the mayor first. Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to comment?
I'm picking up pretty good now. No, I just think, you know, somebody throw something out there and let's start talking about it.
Mr. Shelley, did you have your hand?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just, I mean, I think this is a good use of funds. I mean, for this park, when I first got elected, I spoke with then the Parks Director about trying to do something with this park as well. So I think it'd be good to fix this park up. I have no problem, you know, if there's funds available, applying them to this park. My only question, though, is that have we also looked into, once this park is created, if it is, how are we going to maintain that? Are we going to maintain that through CRA, or is that going to be maintained through the police department or through Parks and Rec? And if we don't have an answer, that's fine, but I just want to make sure it's out there to be considered as part of going forward, because when I look at each one of these projects, it's not only do we have the money to do it now, but can we maintain it? Is it going to cost us more in the future? I mean, there's a whole list of things that, I know there's not necessarily answers to at this point, but I just want to make sure it's out there before a final decision's made at some point in time in the future. So if you do have an answer to that.
Long-term, we're talking about gravitating all the parks to the Parks and Recreation Department, and this would be an annual cost. Dennis, do you have an estimate on annual cost?
The landscaping contract is covered by the police department through Valley Quest. I don't know the number, but we also use the inmates to do trash pickup and stuff like that. I don't have the true number on how much it costs us on landscaping.
But as far as because I know in its current form it's something different than what we anticipate it being, but it's making sure that whatever the new form is going to be, whatever new maintenance would also be part of that projection, so that we don't agree to build something that we later have a problem maintaining. It's just, that's all I want to make sure is that in all this analysis, not only this park, but all other issues, that we look at going forward what it may cost. And so that's just, so I want to throw the question out there to be thought of, so that when the numbers are finally assembled, we know what that is.
Mr. Shelley, I think that that's something that we have to consider on each and every one of these projects, is that, what happens if we build and later on down the line, who takes care of it? As Parks and Rec's chair, I can tell you that we've been anticipating having to take over these 3 parks for several years, and fortunate or not, there's not as much forfeiture funds as was available before, and that's going to be a burden that we're going to have to carry on the city. So, got to think about everything. But I personally think that this is a perfect project for the CRA. I know, working hands-on with Parks and Rec, that grants are very hard to come by, but I think that, Mr. Maldonado might be helpful in some long down the line situations, maybe even for maintenance once if this project is adopted. But just for the record, I think this is a perfect CRA project. And it is a busy park, and it's crowded all the time. I mean, I go over there quite often or drive by, and it's crowded. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Do we know, to the manager, do we know what it's going to impact, what type of financial impact we're going to have in the general fund by picking up these 2 or 3 new parks that have been covered through the police department's forfeiture fund now for the past, I'm sure, 10 years? Do we know what type of impact that's going to be on our general fund?
Mayor, when I did the numbers and I was working with the police, my budget will probably go up to $300,000 to $400,000 more a year. And that's just maintaining what's there now. And then, of course, the employees that are working there now will be in my budget too. And I don't have the numbers on that, but that will go up more on my budget, Mayor.
Well, 300,000 doesn't. I'm not frightened with that number. If that's the number, but that sounds like an awful low number that we're going to be taking back over from them. I mean, that sounds extremely low. Is that per park?
We got to remember Blakely Park is only landscaping, so we're only covering that. The FICO Williams and Roby George is your 2 parks that are mainly the cost effect on us. The pool is only open on the summer times, so the cost of maintaining it is not that much. If we did it a year around, then the cost would go higher because you need lifeguards and everything.
I'm in favor of the improvements, providing it's not growing the park. If it's improving the existing items that are there, my vote's in favor.
Hey, Mayor?
If it's growing the park, then I think we need to take a much different approach. It's the last thing we want to do is raise the taxes this year in the economy that we're in right now.
Mayor Bateman?
Yes.
This is Jimmy Williams.
Hey, Mr. Williams, how are you, sir?
Maintaining is just cutting the grass. There's nothing out there. There's nothing out there for the residents. It's just a track. And so when you say maintain it to where it is, the status quo It's only grass. There's nothing for the residents to take part in.
Yeah. What type of improvements do we have outlined for it? I'm in favor of improving it, providing it's not growing it to where we have recurring costs right now during this economy.
If I could just have Mr. Rick, if you want to just
Sure.
repeat what you said before a little louder so that the mayor can hear the things that were projected in this.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, we discussed installing 2 playgrounds, a tots and youth playground in the center of the oval with 2 pavilions, resurfacing and striping the track, installing sidewalks, installing artificial turf under the playgrounds, installing passive fitness stations, and putting some new grass on the either ends of the oval. Those were the discussions that we had. Nothing is in stone, and we can come back with different designs or take a real look at what we can put there, but it is basically some of the different elements that have been implemented in other parks throughout the city.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I'm in favor of it. If you were batting the bathroom, growing the size of it, it's a different story. I totally understand now.
Okay, so let me get the consensus of the council to move forward with the CRA funds, or are you looking for another source? So let's give them direction, Mr. Maldonado.
The only thing I would like to just, again, go over is that those type of improvements and which those fitness stations and items like that, it's basically what those other municipalities, other parks were able to, through grants, were able to do. There's grants that are set aside that are covering this aspect. You know, we're dealing with a health issue with diabetes, overweight, and these funds, they're getting them from the government and going to the parks to create a healthy lifestyle. Actually, it's one of those items that I kind of want to work with the parks director, and see if we could bring that down here. So, as for me, I like the idea. I guess I wouldn't mind just supporting it, but in a way, I would like to see us get funding, you know, at least for those items. Right now, we just got to redo the whole the track itself, correct?
Dennis?
Councilman Maldonado, what it is, we're going to resurface it. So we'll add a layer on top, brand new, and then stripe it again. The foundation itself is still good. We're just going to put one layer of asphalt back over it.
$50,000?
I'm sorry?
And you said that was $50,000 for that?
From the estimate that we got from the contractor through the streets department supervisor at the time, that's what he told me that was looking at, that striping and asphalt.
Any other, you just finished?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I have one comment, and that is that we were able to secure the health, the grants, and things like that when we did the community center. That's why we have certain rooms in that building designated for health and wellness, and there's a litany of requirements that we had to fulfill in order to get those grants, and that's how we were able to build a community center. I know Dennis's staff works diligently trying to research any kind of grants available. I think it's good to always think outside the box like that, but at the same time, these residents deserve to have the amenities that the other parks have. So it's my opinion, I'd like to move forward with the CRA funds and provide the park that the Southwest section does, you know, to me they deserve. So that's just my 2 cents. Ms. McCormick?
I concur.
Mr. Shelley? Mayor?
Yes.
Do you concur?
Yes, I concur. I'm with you on it.
Okay, thank you very much. So the direction then to staff would be to move forward with the CRA funding with the potential of some grants down the line as we further look into that. But right now, it's a go.
Question.
The total amount of money...
Question, excuse me, question. I got a
Yes,
question
sir.
to the manager. Now, since we have just given this direction, how long, or what's the anticipation or timeline will this be starting?
Well, let me just clarify one thing. If tonight you're comfortable saying that the plan that they've outlined is good with you all, then we'll put together a timeline and go. If you want to do more planning first before we put the timeline together, then that would be, so if you could give us some direction on that, because sometimes elected bodies like to have some more input at the front end on the planning stage. On the other hand, if you're comfortable with this current proposed plan, then that's okay with us as well.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
My understanding of kind of what we're doing tonight is we're supposed to be itemizing those projects which we are in favor of moving forward with. Now, at some point in time, we may go down this list and we may all decide we want all of them to be under CRA, but then we're back to the same problem. So at some point, I guess we're going to have to prioritize. If we choose some of these big ones that are, $6 million a piece, then we're going to have to figure out what we go forward with first, I assume, versus just saying that now we voted on one and that's it. And I think this is a good project. I have no problem with this project. I'm just trying to figure out logistically what we're doing so that we don't essentially repeat ourselves in another meeting. And then as far as the planning for me goes, I mean, again, what I envision us doing is saying that, again, we're going to go forward with certain projects here, assuming the money's allotted. And then I assume we're going to have a CRA meeting in which you actually bring forth the hard plan. Because to me, all this is still fuzzy planning. It's an idea, and as a concept, I like it, but I want to see the actual details of it before I officially vote on it.
And part of the direction we'd be looking for is, in some cases, the users of the park are included in some sort of a town hall meeting where people discuss what they'd like for the park, or we just go right to a meeting where staff gives their recommendation, and then you go forward if you like it. So we'll just need some direction from you on how much participation at the front end you'd like on the design. And then on the overall projects of, even though there's $5.5 million worth of cash, a decision could be made tonight that, well, we want to do more projects, and so we'd like to spend the 5.5 plus do financing, or plus do whatever other ideas we might have to get you where do you want to be. So just because you've gone down the list and you've said, oh, we've exceeded the $5.5 million, if you're really committed to spending $10 million or $15 million, then our job will be to come back to you with the most reasonable plan, and then give you the consequences of that decision, whatever they are.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I think what really Mr. Shelley brings a good point up, but we have been sitting on these funds since '08. And I think that we should take them like we're doing right now. If that plan is acceptable to the majority of council, then we should move forward and move forward immediately. Do not wait till we cluster or spend all $6 million or whatever's there. We will meeting this to death. That is a very easy project. It sounds like it's to me a no-brainer. Bring some hard numbers back, staff. Bring it to a CRA meeting. We'll call one. But I do not want to see us cluster all these together and wait till we're finished with hammering out all the different items on the other $3 million, $6 million, whatever the other projects are. If this is acceptable, and we brought this one up tonight, let me hear from my council. Let's move forward. And if not, let's, speak up now.
Anthony, I think that would be where we'd need some direction on. If you're comfortable with a general concept, then we'll come back in another meeting, laid out on paper with actual costs, or the alternative would be to do some more fact-finding. So that really would be your decision, is which approach would you prefer on the actual planning phase of this particular project.
Mayor, if I might ask your indulgence just for a moment. I think Mr. Shelley makes a good point, and that is that we're saying you're saying $5.5 million. I had 5.3. $5.3 million. I think the question begs to be answered. Do we want to pick out those projects that total that $5.3 million, and then go to the projects that would require other alternatives? What's the consensus of the council right here, right now?
Well, I was under the impression that we were coming to, that's the only reason why I came today.
I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, I can't hear you.
My impression of this meeting was that we were coming to go over each project of where the funding will come from. We decided that with the pump station. Now, I'm pretty sure you all are going to start on the pump station pretty soon because so you didn't need any direction from that, right? No, so you're going to start. So we come to the next project. We decided it should come from the CRA funds. So why are we going to go back and keep talking and say, well, when, you know, the rest of these, I'm just striking the $450,000 out of the 5.3 that we have, and so I'm leaving a balance of whatever's left. That's where we go. That's my perception of the meeting today.
That's what I'm doing.
If you all are going to talk about the philosophy of it, and we should come back and do this, I don't have time for all of that. I'm here to do it. I'm here to see the community move forward. Let's get these projects done. The money has to be expended. By the time we come back and figure out, the money be gone somewhere else. I was here to move and make some things happen today. I'm not coming.
If you don't mind me chiming in, I concur. That's where I was headed. Look, it would be a feather in all of our caps to have one project at least moving forward. Let's push it forward, let it go, bring us back some real numbers. We sign off on it. At the same time, we keep working on the next item. What we feel when our consensus of 4 or more votes say what the next item is. Look, it may not be my favorite project that gets selected, but I know it's time. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to move forward and put some of these projects to shovel ready now. I tell you, I flew back a week ago with one of the strongest voices up there right now, Miguel Diaz de la Patilla. I sat for 1 hour next to him. He says it's very real that CRAs may go away. So please, let's move forward. This sounds like an easy one. I'm with you, Mr. Williams. Let's move it. Bring us some real numbers back. If you want us to vote on it now, let's vote. Let's vote. Let's raise our hands. 4 people. I'm in favor. To just move this one aside. We got it. Go get us some real numbers. What's the next item? Next person speak up. What's the next thing we have?
Okay, and Mayor, if I could also say that if all of you are satisfied with the park renderings that we have in the other parks, to me we could just move forward with the same tot lot design, the same everything to Mr. Williams, just to avoid all that time constraint that you're concerned about.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
No, I have no problem moving forward with this project. Checking it off the list. Mine was more of a rhetorical question, trying to figure out where we were going to go, so I knew what mindset to be in. But I still am an advocate that I'm okay with the concept of this park, speaking of this project specifically, but I would like to have it at an actual CRA meeting with the hard numbers, because again, I don't like to vote on things conceptually, and it can be in the very next CRA meeting. I'm not asking to delay that project, but I do want to see it before I voted on it and approved it. I want to see the hard numbers in the plan. That's all I want, and then I'll be happy to move forward.
No, I agree with you, Councilman Shelley. I just don't want it to be stalled in the pipeline, and we're waiting on some other funding to come through, and it's stuck another 3 or 4 years from down the road. I don't have a problem with that. I'm in total agreement with you on that.
Okay. Now, I have a question. Rick, excuse me, Mayor, one second. Excuse me, Rick. Can we, when we spend this $5.3 million, it's my understanding we need to do it as a lump sum. We can't just pick out, $500,000 here or $300 here. I mean, I understood that it needed to be spent. No, you're saying you can spend it whenever you want to?
Well,
there's an urgency here, as the mayor has often said.
It is the question of urgency it kind of ties into what you're saying, which is every dollar that you leave in there is exposed on time, but that's been an ongoing issue. So, but could you do one project and leave all the rest in there? You certainly could.
Okay. All right. So, do I have a consensus of this board that we're satisfied with the parks renderings of the other parks that have been renovated so that we can move forward on this as soon as possible?
Yes.
Yes? Yes? Mr. Shelley?
Yes. My understanding is that this will come up at one of the very next CRA meetings or some CRA meeting in the future.
Yes, it'll all come up.
Have an official vote, correct?
It will all come up because this is a workshop.
Yeah, correct. So that's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, but we have to give them some direction as to what they're going to bring back. Mayor, are you okay with that? Yes?
Yeah, he said it already.
Okay, he said it already. All right, I've been asked by a member of the audience for a comment. Sir, during a workshop, we don't normally, it's up to the board to do that. Is it okay with the board to hear someone from the audience? And if so, do you want to put a time limit? Mr. Maldonado?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I think it's very important that we hear from the audience in every single case that we bring up there. That's what it's all about. It's their tax dollars.
All right, let me hear from the rest of the council. Yes? Okay. I'm seeing head shaking down there.
Yeah, that's fine with the normal time. What's the normal time? 2 minutes or 3 minutes? 3 minutes?
3 minutes is the normal time. Right? All right, sir, did you want to take the microphone and state your name and address for the clerk, please?
My name is Jim Dupree. I'm associated with Prime Group, and we're based, we have a lot of different projects here, including the new Courtyard Marriott, the Hampton Inn, the Portofino Plaza, Portofino Professional Center, etc. And I came up here thinking that, well, I imagine there's still time to contribute ideas. It's a very interesting list. I guess to relate to propose some things, but I just wanted to make you aware of what a lot of cities around Dade, Broward, Palm Beach are doing, the CRA specifically. They have a variety of programs which include grants specifically to attract new businesses to the municipality, and it's been very, very successful. In fact, I have documentation here from several of the cities that I'm willing to contribute to staff, CRA staff, City of Del Rey, for example, City of Coral Springs, etc. And they have also very good communication with economic development groups, foundations of the specific counties, Beacon Council being the one for Dade, and then the one, the Broward Alliance, Broward, and also in Palm Beach. But specifically, what I'd like to propose is that, you have a lot of projects, you have a certain amount of funding. One of the things that you really should try to look at, maybe set aside some funds, is for relocation of businesses to Homestead. We're actively trying to do all kinds of things to bring them into the office buildings, and we're being very aggressive with our rents and all that, and our advertising and outreach, etc. And we started something new this year with new advertisements, etc. But one of the things that these people sometimes are looking for, it doesn't have to be really sometimes a really large amount, but where you incentivize them as they bring in the type of employees that you want to the city. So recommend that you take some of these funds and set them aside. I don't know what amount would be as part of the workshop discussion, but we'd be willing to help you, with some of the ideas that we've come across in dealings all over the state, specifically the southeast here in Florida. And I think that will benefit all residents of Homestead, because you'll be attracting certain types of businesses, not necessarily the service, a low-paying business, but some of the businesses that you might want to target specifically. And then what you do is that you do it per employee, or just being the type of business that you want. Example, you might want to target, since we already have the hospital, we need possibly 1 or 2 urgent care facilities to complement that. You might want to bring some of the government agencies that have been looking, and possibly some technology, but that's just an idea. Recommend that, and I'm going to leave information I brought, leave it with CRE staff, and look forward to being of any assistance in the future.
Thank you. Rick, do you want to comment on that at all? We know we just gave $75,000 last meeting as a business incentive, so...
We do have currently $300,000 in commercial enhancement grant funding. It's split between facade improvements and repairs, internal build-out, and some relocation funds. I'm familiar with a lot of the different programs that you see in this state and in other states as well that do targeted incentives for specific industries. When we come back to you with the budget, we're going to give you a better understanding of how the commercial grant program has been working over the past year, and we're going to come to the board and let you know, if we think it's working or if we think we should make some changes, and you can do that through the budget process.
Okay.
We have just recently given $75,000 to a light manufacturer to come into the Southwest. And one thing we do need to realize is all these funds can only be used in the CRA area, and I do know that there's a larger city out there, but we do what we can with the funding that we have right now.
So we're working on those
Yes.
projects, and Mr. Dupre, if you want to meet with Rick, I think that would be an excellent opportunity. But right now, these were the projects that were put on the priority, and so we have other funds for what you're talking about, okay? All right, so let's move on, because this is going to take us all night if we... All right, the next project is the Seminole Theater project.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
No,
I heard somebody...
I was going to say that we have a range, a cost range on this of $3.5 to $6 million. And the reason for that is basically the current plans that are there for the Seminole Theater. We just looked at what the construction cost of that would be. There is some room here for taking a look at those plans and seeing, what can be done with a certain amount of funding. It's really, this type of construction is a specialty construction, so if this is something that the board wants to move forward with, we'd have to go and get an engineer and architect who does this and take a real close look at how we can get the best bang for our buck.
And also, if there's a desire to do some value engineering, there's a lot of questions that we still don't have answers to, like what kind of sound systems and just the level of renovations, and so that's something that we could work on to try to get the cost down.
We need somebody to do a running accounting. Carlos, maybe you could let us know how much, because we've already allotted, what was it, 450?
Yeah, you currently have $4,850,000 to go.
It's going to be a man of light. We're going to keep referring back to you for the total amount left. I guess this is something we just need to open up on the dais and decide whether or not you're interested in going out for probably a loan, floating a bond. I mean, we have how much did you say? $4,850,000. Okay, so we do have enough there, but that's something that we need to decide. So, Mr. Shelley, any comments? Sorry, Mr. Williams left, so and I started with Mr. Maldonado last time.
No problem. Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
As far as the Seminole Theater goes, I mean, it's a concept that I'm in favor of. I mean, I think that it has potential. I would like more information on it, but conceptually going forward, I would like to find out what could we do for maybe a lesser amount of money. But the other thing, too, my biggest concern on the Seminole Theater, though, is making sure that I don't want a situation where we take the mentality, if you build it, they will come. I want to make sure that if we're going to invest money into the Seminole Theater, that we know what's going to be operating in that theater when we're finished. I don't want to have to build it and let it sit there, pay for the maintenance costs, etc., while we're still struggling to try to make it turn around and make some money, or at least break even. So I would want to make sure that as a condition of going forward with the Seminole Theater, that we find out what are we going to do in it, how are we going to occupy it, how is it going to generate revenues. Are we going to outsource it? Is someone going to come in and either lease it from us for a long-term time? There's a lot of things that I would like to look into related to the Seminole Theater versus just saying, go forward with this one. This is one I do want to maybe beat to death with a committee, so to speak, until we figure out the best solution. So that's kind of where I am right now in the Seminole Theater.
There was a report in your book from 2008, May of 2008, but it's 2012, so I'm sure there's some differences. There's Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, any comment on the Seminole Theater?
No, I'm just listening to my colleagues.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Do we have anyone? Do we have people there from the board of the Seminole Theater?
I know we have people here from the board, Mayor, but I thought maybe council might want to just give...
No. I just wanted just questions. It's a question to see who is there and if some of the questions that I have can be answered by the board themselves.
Okay. Is it all right if I go ahead and go through the rest of the council here on the dais first, and then I'll come back to you and you can address your questions?
Sure.
Okay, so Ms. McCormick?
Yes. Well, this is a project that I support. I am a proponent of the Seminole Theater. I campaigned on helping to revitalize it and renovate the Seminole Theater. I'm looking at the amount of money that it's going to cost to complete the renovation. I'm not necessarily sure that, well, I'm not sure that we have the amount of CRA funds to be able to defray the cost for it. I have conducted research on the Adrian Art Center, Coconut Grove Playhouse, Actors Playhouse, the South Dade Cultural Arts Center, and many of those facilities are struggling right now to keep their doors open, and in fact, the Coconut Grove Playhouse has closed. I feel that in this fiscal climate that the families just don't have money to support the programs within these theaters. But I still think that it's a project that we still should move forward with. I think there should be a public-private partnership. I don't think the CRA funds should be totally expended to defray the cost. I've had a conversation with Commissioner Moss, who's going to meet with me and sit down and kind of map out some ways in which we can acquire funds to be able to renovate this theater. So I would like to move forward with it, not necessarily sure that I want to move forward with it with the CRA funds.
Mr. Maldonado?
You know, I agree with Councilwoman McCormick, where I've not gone to the movie theater almost over a year, and I'm a movie buff, love to watch it. And I know we can't compare the movie theater to the art theaters, but I've seen, my concern has been that I've seen all these flyers come out for all the programs that are going over in our new, right here in Cutler Bay with the new theater. And I've actually gone out there to experience it because I knew this was something that was coming before us. So I want to say, well, let's see if they're really doing good. And whenever there is an event, I see that there's a low turnout. And I've gone there 3 times already on some of the events that have gone by. I do agree that we should move forward with and continue to help out and see this to fruition. I could see some money going to it. That amount is to be discussed, but not cover the whole amount on it. But it's tough because the economy right now, it's a tough decision. But nonetheless, I'd like to see some help go out to them if possible.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say many of these theaters rely on ticket sales for revenue, but I believe that this theater will be unique in that it won't necessarily rely on ticket sales per se. So we have members of the board here. They want to come up and provide clarity on that so that all of us are clear on how we're going to receive funding for the theater.
State your name and address, please.
Frank May, 25 West Maury, Homestead, Florida, 33030. I'd like to go down the questions as they occurred. I'd like to start with Councilman Shelley. There have been detailed feasibility studies, 2, which have been generated by external consultants, which indicate a positive and viable financial position for the theater. I have these documents. I can send them to you. But there has been extensive work on pro forma projections on the theater's operations, both on the income side and on the expense side. So I would like to get those to you in the next several days so that you can review those. Councilwoman Fairclough, in terms of the potential, the financial potential of this performing arts complex, there are several discrete sources of income other than ticket sales. The Seminole Theater, when it was designed as a business, not only on the income side, but also on the expense side. We have major sources of revenue from the Children's Education Center, which was the last building that we built, an 8,000 square foot building to the immediate south of the Main Stage Theater. We will have tuitions from drama programs, arts programs. This will be very extensive and very productive insofar as income is concerned. We also have major concession revenue. If you look at the building footprint, on the northeast corner of the building, there is a large concession area. That concession area will not only service patrons inside the theater, anything from hot dogs to popcorn to gourmet meals, depending upon the event, but it will also have a north face to Losner Park and will service major events as they occur in Losner Park. We anticipate income streams from that as well. The third discrete income stream is the rental of parts of the facility. I think most importantly is the second floor terrace. We will be renting that for weddings, for quinces, and for other types of receptions. The bottom line here is this arts complex was designed as a business like an investment portfolio. We have diversified sources of income, so we are not completely dependent upon ticket sales. Now, I know this is a little abstract. I can give you an example. The Tower Theater was renovated in downtown Miami, not quite downtown, it's in Little Havana. It was essentially a movie theater. I know I went there as a child. Miami-Dade owns it, Miami-Dade operates it. It is not functioning optimally because it is only dependent upon ticket sales. This is a very unusual situation that we have here, in a very advanced and sophisticated situation. The theaters that you have mentioned, for example, the Coconut Grove Playhouse. Coconut Grove Playhouse is somewhat of a unique example. It essentially closed its doors in April of 2006 because of mismanagement. And I think that's very clear. I brought you an article that I pulled from the Herald Archives, which I'll be giving to you later, which really states the reasons for that. In terms of the Arts Center, very similar situation. They do not have other sources of income than ticket sales. In terms of the South Dade Performing Arts Complex, same issue. We are unique. We set out when we designed this, and the design schematics were approved or accepted by the City Council to create something that would withstand the test of time and would essentially be able to function in all economic climates.
Mayor, did that answer your questions? And Mayor?
Yeah, it does. A business plan was my question to the board, and he's somewhat summed it up. Last but not least, I really believe that the number has been blown out of proportion when we're talking $6 million, and that's no disrespect to anyone who found the new number. I have stood inside that building with the contractors who say that it can be done for $3.5 million or less. You know, maybe we have to tailor a few things, but I'd hate to see us, throw the baby out with the bathwater all in one. We have worked so hard on this, and this committee that I don't know if they're there or not, or that's been in existence for years. We need to stand by them. If $3.5 million we go out and get a couple of good bids, solid bids from reliable contractors to see where the number's at, not let it be analyzed by consultants, but real people that are going to do the job, I think is the way to go. And I think that, Frank, that's what you should do. You've heard it, and I've heard it. We've heard it from reliable contractors that they don't see it. They don't see where that number is: $6 million, $5 million, $4 million. So I think you need to put put your feet to the fire and get a real hard number to do the job. Our community desperately needs the arts, desperately, and I think that you build it and they will come. I feel for sure they will come from every form, from elementary to middle to high school to college to professional, and we are missing. That is a piece of the puzzle that our community is definitely missing, and we're labeled that we don't even look for things like this. and I don't want to be labeled. We're as good as the Palmetto Bays and Pinecrest and others up the road. So it's a piece of the puzzle we desperately need. So please, don't write it off. Thank you.
Hey, Mayor?
Yes.
Bateman, Jimmy Williams. I'm a very strong proponent of the Seminole Theater. But my question to you, so I'm clear, are you saying that the renovation of it should come out of the CRA funds?
Yes, and I brought that back. I brought it back, and the manager, I know, agrees with me. I brought back from Fort Pierce, Florida, Cowboy Town, USA. $12 million the CRA wrote a check for. $12 million CRA check they were the majority contributor. Yes, they were. There were other contributors, banks and other independents, just wealthy people from the community. But $12 million came out of the CRA fund from there. Why? Because it's an important component of your community.
Okay?
Madam Chair, may I make another comment?
Sure.
This is the study to which you referred in the beginning of
2008?
Yes.
Mhm.
We also did one in 1997, and the conclusions were the same. Essentially, the consultant concluded that this was a viable financial enterprise and that there was a distinct need for the facility in our community. And I think perhaps you all should, if you have the time, to refresh yourselves and perhaps read this. This was a document that this city council paid for. You spent nearly $55,000 to have this done and published. So I think it's probably something that you need to review. I tried to place it on the agenda in 2008 and was unable to. I think the bottom line here is that we need to finish this project. This project has a major twofold purpose. One is an economic catalyst for downtown Homestead. This feasibility study states that no less than 60,000 persons will go through the theater on its first year of operation. If you take those 60,000 persons, and your CRA executive director can tell you this, there are certain multipliers in terms of discretionary income. That income will go directly back into the community, to restaurants, gasoline stations, CVS, Walgreens, you name it. They will leave the theater and they will go out into your community and they will spend their money there. There's a second concept in terms of what I would call return on your investment. Typically what occurs when these theaters are built, and again your CRA executive director can verify this, rents in the immediate area increase. When they increase, more money goes into your tax increment fund. You will have more money available simply by having this theater operate over time. The second major concept in terms of the Seminole Theater is as a provider of culture. There is no cultural destination in Homestead, and this is something that is sadly lacking. We need to have a place for children to go to on a daily basis so that they can be a part of this culture. A person in the Southwest community or the Northwest community may never have the opportunity to see a Broadway show, a Beethoven string quartet, or to see modern dance. That's what this facility is all about, bringing culture to the residents of Homestead and South Dade. And I think that's a very critical mission for this city to undertake.
I guess it's coming time now. Frank, last time, well, first of all, you know as well as I know that I've always supported the theater.
Absolutely.
You know that.
Yes.
And you received a phone call from me when I asked you to go with me to breakfast with Katie Sorensen, and I begged Katie for $1.5 million of money, and she came through with $1 million, and the checks were presented.
That's correct.
So that's documented.
Yep, sure.
It's documented. We did that. And that enabled the Seminole Theater to be able to go out and get some more grants, and because it gave you that oomph that you needed to get the horse out of the barn, I guess we could say.
Right.
So, but the last time we talked about this, I thought the figures that you and I had talked about were like $4.5 million. Was that just something that...
In terms of what we've expended?
No, to finish.
In 2006, when I became president of the board of directors, the first thing I did was engage a consultant to estimate the prospective construction costs. It was a very chaotic environment. No one could pin it down. I could not get a firm figure.
I remember.
I engaged a consultant. He came back at that time with approximately $4.9 million. Since then, we have spent $1.6. So I would say that we're talking $3.4 to $3.5 million based upon that estimate at the time.
I knew that
This individual was highly recommended by our architect and had done tremendous amount of this type of work throughout Florida for them, for many different types of projects. Historic theater renovations, high schools, that type of institutional cost estimation.
That figure, that $4.5 million, just kept sticking in my mind, so I just wanted to clarify where that came from and how we got to that.
Yeah, it was done again by a consultant report in 2006, and again, we have spent roughly $4.3 million so far on the project.
I think, from my perspective, the question needs to be asked, does this come out of these CRA funds? Because we only have $5.3 million. So, and then there's that begs the other question, and that is this council willing to go out and finance projects? And that's something that we really need to search deep in our souls, because it's a hard economic time right now, and I can tell you, your ad valorem isn't going to be any better in the next 2 years. So that's the question here. Does it come out of these funds? Because, Carlos, what would that leave us?
Mayor and council, that would be $1,350,000 a day if you assume the 3.5.
Okay. So that's where we are here, Frank, and I think you realize that. I would love to see the theater finished. I've always had dreams of seeing the theater finished. I think it will become a private partner relationship, and we've always said that. I mean, I've said that to you 1,000 times.
Yes, you have.
And but the question begs us right here is this dais, do we want that money to come out of these CRA funds? And that's a very heart-wrenching question we have to do. Or do we give guidance to the manager to go out and ask if there are any other funding sources? I mean, we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Mr. Shelley.
Madam Chair, as far as the answer of whether we should spend all the money on this project or not, I don't think I can give you an answer to that one or give you guidance on it, other than to say that, I think that we need to take maybe smaller steps, and that would be look at what kind of private-public partnership can we come up with. Can we look into that? Are there options out there? Maybe there's not, in which case the ultimate answer is going to be we're going to have to make that tough decision and pick a side. But I think for me, I don't really have a problem, as I stated before, building the building per se. What I have a problem with is the ultimate operation of it, and how much of the city is going to have an ongoing maintenance expense. I don't want a situation where we build another baseball stadium and then we end up maintaining it for who knows how long and ultimately just begging to give the thing away. I don't want that to be the same synopsis, and I'm not saying that it will be. I know there's a study involved here, but for me, I need more hard facts and data showing me the operations side of it, that once it's built, that we can turn it over to somebody that will create the impact that we're looking to create within our neighborhood without a cost to the city going forward. If this is what we end up spending and then it's free operation thereafter, that's one thing. But I haven't seen anything that tells me that. I mean, it will be profitable, possibly.
It's right here.
But what I am saying is I need to see that hard fact and data and be convinced of that. And at this point, I'm not, so I can't make that decision. But I'm not, I need more information, I guess is what I'm saying. I need to see what options are out there. And I don't know that I have all that information in front of me right this second.
Madam Chair, if I could address that, I would suggest that a professional management company manage the theater's operations and not the Seminole Theater Group, or certainly not the City of Homestead. I would like to see somebody come in who is a pro at this type of operation and manage it for a fee. I think that's probably the best, the most effective and most efficient way to do this, and probably the best way to ensure that you're going to get the highest quality management.
And Mr. May, if I may, on page 43 of that report, it breaks down the staff. I think there's, right here it is, the 12-member staff. I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what they're recommending, Frank?
Yes, that's a general recommendation, and it's been consistent. It's been consistent over the two feasibility studies.
That's what. So we can pretty much look at that list of staff and know that's what the city, because the city owns the building ultimately. That's what the city would have to salary, correct?
Well, if they were city employees, they could be employees of a management company. There are all kinds of ways that this could be done. Again, what you're looking at is a 12-member staff. Some are full-time and some are part-time. But my suggestion, a very strong suggestion to this board would be have somebody else do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But bottom line, though, revenues have to cover these staff people. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Absolutely.
Is that, it's just a business. It's a business deal here. But still, we need to give some guidance. So, can I? Well, Mr. Maldonado's gone now. Keep losing them one by one, Mayor. So we need to see if you want to instruct staff to do a little more intense research, and or do you want to take it out of the CRA funds? I mean, that's something we need to get some direction on.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Go ahead,
sir?
Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to close with saying I think that we're looking at this a little strangely because it's not a park. But a park is a quality of life issue. The theater is a quality of life issue. They're both quality of life issues that we are bringing forward to our citizens. And we maintain our parks, and we have some of the best parks in the entire county, if not the best. This is just another form of quality of life that we're trying to deliver up to our citizens. So I think that we're having a little tougher time understanding why we should help to the tune of $3.5 million, or why we should help in maintaining the operation of it in some way or form. I think that we need to rethink it and think that it's just another, it's one more level of quality of life of what we are offering our citizens. So I think we need to continue in the fact-finding. And I think, Frank, personally, you and your group, you need to get hard, cold facts, a legitimate bid. Get a bid process started. Do not allow the city to spend another dime on it and estimating. I think that you need to get estimators in there, and you need to get companies that are qualified to do that build-out and find out what the numbers are in a proposal, an estimate. Then we can look at real stuff, not what an agency decides or thinks what it is that we're paying to go in there. I have no idea what we paid the company. Mr. Manager, what did we pay the company to go tell us that job would have cost $6 million? Do you have it off the top of your head?
No, off the top of the head, no, but we can get that for you.
Okay, then we spent a substantial amount of money, Frank. So I really think that you ought to get you ought to get some estimating done. Get some companies in there, get some real numbers done, and let them estimate it. You know, let them estimate it. It's a real deal. I mean, you've gone this far. There's millions of dollars in it. Let's see. On your side, I think that's the due diligence you need to do. But I really believe it's no different than the other items that we offer our citizens now. That not only do we build Roscoe Warren Park, $6 or $7 million. That park, when it's built out, will be $9 million. So it's no really different. It's just a different quality of life that we're offering. Thank you very much. I'm through. Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I'm going to sign off after this because I got to drive home now. Thank you.
Okay, good night. Is he off the line now? Mayor? Okay, he hung up. Again, this is all up to us, and it's so. I think there's so many different facets of this conversation, because does the city want to make loans right now? Do we want to borrow money right now? So there's so much more. I mean, the heart and soul, I think, of all of us are in the Seminole Theater. We all want the Seminole Theater to be built. But do we have that money right now? And yes, we have a cushion in our general fund. No, take care of that, Patricia. We have a little blinking going on up here. But I don't know what the right format is to have that discussion. Do you want to go out? Do you want to borrow the money? If we can't have it right here, I don't know where we can have it. So I personally I just see so many projects on our list that, and they're also important. So I would like to move forward with trying to get more information on the Seminole Theater, but I hesitate a little bit about just going out and getting contractors, and with no disrespect, because we have policy and procedure that we have to follow, correct?
And there's a couple of things I'd like to say on the cost, because in essence what we did was we took whatever plans existed, we walked in there with the consultants, and they looked around, and their belief is that this is the higher end of the scale. That being said, everybody agrees that if you set a number, we can value engineer. I mean, the next step would be to hire an architect and say, design this thing around a particular number, and does that get us to a functional level? That being said, I think 3.5 is, I don't even think Frank will disagree. I don't think you can get away with anything less than 3.5, right? Or you would agree with that?
I would say that's a good number, yes.
So if you're saying, okay, well, we only want to use CRA money for this project, we only want to spend 3.5, then I still think this process should be a staff-driven process of ensuring to you before you commit to anything that we can get you, a turnkey operation at $3.5 million. I don't think the city could take a chance of having an outside entity saying, oh, 3.5 is fine, and then we end up with a situation on our hands downstream. So if one idea is cap it at a particular number, and then that forces a value engineering situation, and then decide, is that coming from CRA or is that coming from financing? And then the only other thing that I would add here is that having built one of these before in another city, I can't emphasize enough how important parking is going to be to the success long-term of the theater, and the patrons are going to need some answer to the parking question. So, hope you'd consider that issue as well. And then also, as you think about parking garages, assuming you have an interest in them, thinking through the question of, can it be user fees for that, parking, a charge for parking to help defray some of the costs of that as well.
And that brings to another level that people are paying to see a Broadway play or see a play, and then paying for parking as well. I mean, the costs are there. We also have to consider in these economic times, and as you start I'm sure you've already started, Allison, on the budget process, but we have to make sure that we have the money to maintain as well, because first year, that's probably going to fall on the city. Would you not agree, Frank?
I'm not sure that I could agree with that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
But I would like to offer this. I'm president of 2 or 3 other nonprofit organizations that are performing arts organizations. I just produced 2 shows at the Arts Center over the last 2 weeks, and I sold them both out. This is not difficult to do. You have to work hard, and you have to stay on top of it. But again, I think that this is something that we have to continue to look at, and I think that your comments are very well taken in terms of how the city should proceed with this.
Okay, so to my colleagues, what do you want to do? What direction do you want to give the manager?
I think this is definitely a priority, and we should move forward with trying to find ways to offset the cost for it. But we can receive grants for this, so I would say, as opposed to just saying, okay, let's use 3.5 from CRA funds, that we direct staff to diligently research different grants, meet with Commissioner Moss, as he has indicated with me that he's willing to meet with me to try to secure funds to be able to bring this project to fruition. So there's going to be a lot of work to be done to make this happen. So I wouldn't necessarily say go out and get loans for it. I think we need to aggressively to seek grants to pay for this project.
Just so you know, Frank and I have met with Commissioner Moss before.
We actually had him inside the theater. He made some very good suggestions in terms of the construction. We also met with him during the initial stages of the Southgate Performing Arts Center. While the charrettes were going on, we had meetings with Commissioner Moss, and we essentially sat down and we said, how are we going to make this work with your much larger facility, which is 988 seats, and ours is 458. And we realized at that point that we're really two separate facilities serving two different marketing areas and serving really different markets. And so we walked away by saying, yeah, the larger facility is great for the larger shows, but in terms of the Seminole Theater during the daytime, I want to see 10 yellow Miami-Dade public school buses with hundreds of kids inside. And we can do that in a smaller facility. You cannot do that in a larger facility. So we, again, have met with Commissioner Moss. We have discussed these details. We have discussed the relationship and how the two facilities can work together and interact. And again, Madam Chair invited Commissioner Moss out there. We spent a couple hours with him inside the facility, and he had some very fine comments and suggestions for us, some of which we actually did incorporate.
And if I can also add, you'll look hard and long before you'll find a better grant writer than Frank May. And I know that he has searched. I mean, you've done your due diligence many years to...
Public sector funding is very difficult right now. What I'm doing now is I'm concentrating on private foundations and corporations. Public sector is very difficult to deal with now in terms of funding. So I would applaud Commissioner Moss's involvement here because I really believe that at some point he could really help us.
And I'll also put a call into him, and it wouldn't hurt for all of us to ask his assistance and his help, because that is in his district.
That is, the Seminole Theater resides in his district, yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So the consensus then is that we'll look an outside source, and the manager and Mr. May will work together on
Absolutely.
Coming up with what the real numbers you feel will be. And is it my understanding that we don't want to take the money out of this, what's our total, Carlos?
If you include the $3.5 million, then you would only have $1,350,000 left.
Okay. So is that the consensus that I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Shelley?
The question is whether or not we are going ahead and allotting the 3.5 out of the CRA funds. Is that the question?
Are you in favor of taking, allotting, I mean, this isn't written in stone.
No, you said you were.
No, maybe I was, no, I'm not in favor of allocating $3.5 million for that. I'm in favor of going out to trying to attempt to get other funds.
That's what I
and then have the
understood.
city manager and Mr. May get those hard numbers. And besides that, I have a problem with the manner in which we're doing this, because if we start allocating based on where these projects line up, we'll be finished with the money by the time we get to the Chrome Avenue improvements.
Well, it's the only way that, if you have a better suggestion, I mean, we've got to talk about each one of these. And that's what this workshop is for, is to give this direction of the staff. So at the end of the day, we're not voting on any of this tonight.
Right. You have to establish priorities.
So it has to come back to us, and that's when we'll be voting on each project. But there are some projects maybe that don't need to be here, and some projects that do need to be here. So, shall we proceed, or?
No, Madam Chair, go ahead, proceed.
Mr. Williams, is that what you're in agreement to, not to take that's...
No, we have to decide like we did with the pump station, whether it belongs on the CRA list or if there's
Right.
other opportunities.
Okay, so what is your answer?
My answer to what?
Does it belong on the, with the money being taken out of the 5.3 million?
Oh, no, I'm good with what my colleagues have already said
Okay.
about working with Frank Main, manager.
Mr. Maldonado?
I just have to ask a question.
What?
I don't worry about it.
So,
I'm stopped up here too, I'm hearing you.
I don't know, did Mr. Shipley already comment on
Those
this?
three, I think, are...
Well, I just
Did
got
you
to ask
want to
a
say
question.
anything?
Yeah, I just got to ask the question. I didn't get to actually make the comment.
Okay, make a comment.
Yeah, the sum up here to me is a priority. I think it is something that I would like to work on going forward. Do I want to tell you that I would agree to take that money out of the CRA? No, not at this time, based on the comments from before. And that is, the building doesn't concern me. It's the operation and the longevity and the cost to the city as a maintenance or thereafter after it's built. And until I have that information, I couldn't say yes or no tonight. But I do think it's a priority of mine, and I would like to have staff diligently work towards solutions in any manner, whether it be looking at grants, whether it be looking at private-public partnerships, and hopefully maybe come up with some other alternatives going forward.
But not taking it out of the CRA 5.3 million.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to that. I just don't have enough information to say yes tonight. So if you're asking me tonight, no, I'm not earmarking the money for it. But I'm not opposed to earmarking the money for it if I'm given a plan that satisfies me. At this point, I have no plan that satisfies me, so no, I do not agree in earmarking the money.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess we should just move forward then, because I personally don't think we should take it out of this 5.3 million, but I definitely want to see it made a priority, and I definitely want to see it finished. I just don't know how we're going to do that just yet, but I'm not in favor of taking it out of the CRA budget. So I believe there was 4 of us that feel that way. Mr. Shelley is waiting for a plan to come back to him. So can we move forward now, or?
Yeah, just to clarify on the issue of the operational plan, am I hearing that the board wants to see some sort of an additional report aside from what they already have on the operations?
I think basically what we're saying is that we would like for you and Mr. May to work together and combine your thoughts and see if that, and meet with Commissioner Moss and see if the county can help us some way, and your private connections, and I have a few private connections that we've talked about before that I'm still working on, and so I think it still can be a priority.
Of course.
Although, Rick, let me just add one thing. There was a minimal cost for sealing. Was that, how much was that?
Yes, one of the issues when they went in to take a look at the building was there was some water infiltration through the roof. And, over time, that can cause even more deterioration of the inside of the building. And we want to make sure that we can keep the renovation number as low as possible. I think the estimate was about $100,000 to seal the roof and make it watertight.
Well, I think all of us would probably agree that that's a minimal amount of money if we need to take that amount out of the CRA money to waterproof this, to preserve the inside. We don't want any extra damage to happen. So that's something you can discuss and come back to us.
Yeah.
This is just a workshop, okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. May. Nice seeing you. Okay, now we come to the downtown parking garage, because if we have a theater, we're going to need a parking garage. So, unless we come up with something else. So, any comments on the parking garage? That's estimated 4.5 to 6 million. Now, Jim, don't leave me here.
If you recall during the presentation, and we discussed when it comes to parking, besides the amount of spaces and the cost per space and whether or not you're doing above ground, below ground, surface lot, its location is key. So if the Seminole Theater is a priority for the board, taking a look at where in the downtown we could put parking in close to where we expect people to want to be. That's something we have to take a look at. The $4.5 to $6 million number, we looked at a 25,000 square foot footprint, about 70 feet tall, 350 parking spots. The $6 million is looking at possible land acquisition, if something that the board wants to do. We also could take a closer look at maybe smaller garages in different locations. Another part of parking is some surface lots, and we can talk about Flagler afterward as well.
Okay, so let's get this one done, and
Can we kind of bring these, the parking garage with the parking lots at the same time, because they're kind of spread out?
Yes.
Maybe
Back to back.
tackle parking as a whole?
Sure.
well, I think one question though we could maybe just mention, parking garages are very profitable if they're ran properly. I mean, you have to charge for parking, and that's something that we would all have to decide. Do we want to charge for parking? I mean, there's a lot of questions here to be asked. But you want to go ahead and talk about?
Charging for parking?
No, the other parking.
The other lots as well. So again, we looked at a garage near Chrome, closer to the heart of downtown. And then we also looked at a piece of city-owned property, the Arsenic lot, what we're calling now the Flagler lot. It's about a 2.5 acre site. The staff estimates that we can get 350 parking spaces on this lot at a cost of $425,000. That includes paving it, striping it, landscaping it, lighting it, and hard piping the stormwater system off-site, because there are some environmental mitigation efforts that we have to take.
The one concern, if we're talking about this with the theater patrons, is the distance between the far end of that lot and where the theater is. This question about how far people will walk to go to the theater, and why the parking garage being closer to the theater seems to be more of a consumer behavior pattern, but again, that's just one thing to consider.
If I could just say one thing, I've been trying to get this lot paved for years because it was full of arson, it's a quick fix for 350 spots. Whether or not it would be the answer to the theater, I don't know. Unless you hired a shuttle or a bus to bring in when you're having a performance. But I was thinking more in terms that the college is right there. It's also it's just extra parking. It's just parking spaces, 350, and we don't have to charge for it. Be free parking, and I thought that was pretty inexpensive, $425,000.
I do think, though, if the board considers a garage closer and it is paid parking there, you have to put some restrictions on the on-street parking, and you're going to have to put some restrictions on any of the larger surface lots, just because then nobody will go, well, some people will go, but you want to just make sure that you implement an overall parking strategy that's going to, maximize the profits that you can receive from paid parking.
Okay, so who on this dais has a question, or are you willing to take $4.5 million to $6 million out of our grand total to build a garage, or you want to look for outside sources, or what's your opinion? I knew this would be tough.
No, initially I was, I guess it was there was discussion before of a private-public partnership in a garage for the downtown area. Now, I don't know if that still exists, or if, that's something that's still possible.
Well, part of the work that we did initially when this whole due diligence period started was that Dade Medical College wanted to buy the CRA properties behind Losner, and so we looked extensively at the whole concept of selling them certain portions and then having them also do a partnership on the garage, so there'd be synergy between the two. And at some point they decided they couldn't acquire some of the pieces from the private property owners, so that kind of got in their way, and they dropped their interest in there. The one thing that we find interesting is they seem, we've heard through the grapevine anyway, that they have some project that's coming that will generate parkers. And so if that ends up fleshing out, we could always do a pro forma to figure out if we did the garage ourselves and we charge for parking, even if we find some way to fold in the existing property owners there, that could end up being the public-private partnership. But up until this point, the two property owners in that section there have expressed they were not interested in anything that involved fair market value at this time. They felt, if they had a longer-term strategy, they'd be interested in considering some other options. But right now, they were not interested in just selling their property, be simple, for fair market value.
Okay. Because my question would be, if we went to a parking garage in the downtown area, where's the spot that do you have?
If you see, well, here.
That's the front pieces that were CRA properties that we eliminated from the package deal with Dade Medical College, right?
Show them the stage, where the Losner stage is, Rick, and then... So it's right behind it.
So the idea was for those private parcels that were there, if there was an interest in doing some sort of a revenue-based garage, then we'd go back to the property owners and say, would you be willing to do some sort of a condo operation where we'd build over, maybe fit out the space for them, but they allow us the air rights to continue and build the garage over their property. So there's some options there as well. But really what drives this decision first on the financial end is, are you interested in paid parking? Because then that gives us the ability to figure out some sort of a revenue bond to, finance the garage and pay off the debt via revenue stream, assuming the revenue stream makes sense. And by that time, hopefully, we'd also see some sort of definitive plans from Dade Medical College on what kind of parking needs would they have. Would their intent be to build a garage also? Because then we'd have competing situation. If they don't intend to build parking, or in fact, if you're willing to do paid parking, it may be better for us to do the garage, as long as it's a good financial deal for us. So there's a whole lot of ways to work this, assuming you like the concept of wanting a garage. And obviously, if you say we want to use all the CRA money and just go out and build the garage, then we don't have to pursue those either. So the first question is, are you interested in using the CRA money to build a garage, or would you like us to look for alternative means, or no parking at all? You're not interested in a parking garage.
Okay. Are you interested in a parking garage? Are you interested in using CRA money to fund and build a parking garage? Yes or no?
No.
No. Mr. Shelley?
No, I said no. My answer
Oh,
is
you
no.
did say no? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that.
And that's fine. I guess you brought up one important point, which would go in if we continue to work with the Seminole Theater, and they need parking, and you showed some spaces there. Are those spaces paved where anyone could park right now, and maybe we could add that? Let's say we don't want to put $4.5 million into a parking garage. Is there
Oh, you mean pave over the CRA lots that we do own there?
Yes. That we can pave that. Let's say right now, if we pave it, it's just parking, it's close to the area that we could use, and in the future, if we had to, we could go up. Is that a possibility?
We haven't done a cost estimate, but we can come back to you with what that would cost. And it's also a question of the size of the lot, because you need to have turning radiuses and how they get in and out. But we'd have to take a look at it and come back to you with some hard numbers. The Flagler lot, includes 2 lanes of driving, so you could drive around it. You got to include that as well. So we just have to take a look at it.
And just to clarify, the no is on no parking garage or no CRA?
CRA money.
No. For me.
Okay.
No. Well, mine would be yes for parking garage, no for the CRA, though no from CRA money for parking garage. So we do need parking. That's we do need parking. So I definitely we need to address this.
No for parking garage and CRA funds.
Mr.
No,
Shelley?
no.
Yeah, my comment is no. I'm not interested in necessarily doing a parking garage at this point. Not for the CRA monies either. And again, I think that's something if the Seminole Theater ever comes to fruition or some other economic engine is erected down there, it's something to be revisited later. But as we currently sit, I don't see that being an option that I would vote for. I am interested possibly in the Flagler lot, though. I think that is a good short-term solution. We have parking that would be put on site. Maybe it's not as close as we would like it, but it would allow for parking for the downtown area, and it's a cheaper alternative, and it's free. We don't have to worry about charging for that in the near term, and I think that would help go forward. So I'm in favor of the Flagler lot, but not the parking garage at this time.
I'm in favor of the Flagler lot.
Me too.
Same here.
Okay, I am, of course, in favor of the Flagler lot. I still like calling it my arsenic and Olace lot, but Rick wouldn't let me do that.
No, you can call it whatever you'd like. I was informed to call it the Flagler lot.
I am against using CRA money for the garage. However, as I hope the theater develops, we will be able to have some sort of parking facility for the theater as that time happens. So it's like, first we need to work on the theater and then work on some sort of parking, whether it be those lots, Rick, in the back, or like Mr. Maldonado suggested, but the Seminole Theater will need parking. So that's a kind of a long way to get around that question and answer. But so we're good on Flagler.
We'll take the garage off the list, and the Flagler was with CRA money or without?
Yes, that's correct, right?
Yeah, with
So,
CRA money.
Carlos, what's our grand total?
After the Flagler lot, you would have $4,425,000. Madam Chair, for point of clarity, previously when they talked about $100,000 to be dedicated for the Seminole Theater, should we be taking that out as well? Was that the consensus?
I think there's a roof leak.
Yeah, I think when you have a roof leak, that's extremely important because everything else can be really...
And because you never know what costs are going to happen, could we say, just to be on the safe side, maybe $200,000 just to be on the safe side? Because once you start ripping things out, Frank and I went through this before with the roof, where it came in a lot higher than they told us it was going to come in, remember? So could we at least estimate $200,000?
Or at the next CRA meeting, can you have all that information ready for us so that we can vote on it officially and be done?
What would it cost?
The actual cost?
Yes.
Okay. Then that way we can vote on the exact number.
But I think what you're asking,
Just a cushion.
just, does it come out of CRA funds? I'm for that. I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you. Okay. All righty then. What's next, Rick?
Well, that, by the way, that brings us to $4,225,000.
Okay.
The next one is blight removal, which is the demolition of 4 properties.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, my answer would be yes, but my question would be whether or not that is sufficient monies to accomplish our goals, or should we increase that amount? Because we have a lot of buildings that are blight, and if we can remove those, I think we can increase the chances of that land getting developed with something better. So can we use additional monies instead of the 150?
Well, I think we do have Crystal from Code Enforcement here, if there's anything that you could add.
Yeah, I can add about 15 more buildings on.
Yes, good evening. Of course, we could always use more. What we did was to do the cases that we already had pending that we didn't have a budget for. Are there more buildings in Homestead that need to be demolished in the CRA? Absolutely. Have they gone through the legal process yet? No, they have not. All of these already have. So once the money's allocated, we can just start looking into the public bid process.
So these would just be demolished, the ones we already have processed or in the process of processing?
They're already done.
Okay, but
Everything is done. We just need money.
so if we could allocate additional monies, and I don't know what that amount would be, then we could continue this process, because we know we're going to have additional buildings come through the process. So rather than just leave it at 150 and kind of do a half job or a quarter job, I mean, my recommendation would be to increase this amount and do the job right.
Well, since this is one of those kind of rolling issues, because it's not as if I could say, you know what, there's going to be 10 and that's it. So it's difficult for me to give you a hard number. This is also something that could be considered programming-wise in the overall CRA budget, even though there's going to be some challenges next year in our budget anyway. But I guess the question is...
So if we decided, Rick, if we decided to say 300,000, 150 to cover here now, another 150 to the side, are we allowed to do that? Can we do that?
maybe allocated in
Have the
a...
money
Future
earmarked.
programming.
How much do you think you realistically could spend on this within the year?
This would demo. This would
And,
demo.
just in the CRA area,
That in my mind for a minute.
but just in the Homestead CRA area, I mean, that's one caveat.
That's, yeah. 1, 2, 3. I can think of 5 off the top of my head that I could do additionally. So at least 10,000 per, what I would guesstimate. Some of them in the past, Julio has been able to do with Public Works, and we've been able to cut it down to 7, but that's very cheap.
75 or 100,000, or what number do you think realistically you could get through after the process and,
After the process and everything, like I said, I would probably say at least for the 5 that I can think of that are in very bad shape right now, it would be at least another 50 to get the ones that are in very bad shape that I know are abandoned.
you want to do an additional 100,000, and then let's see how far they get with that?
I would.
I have a question. This 150,000 is for 4 properties, correct?
Yes.
So if you have an additional 5 properties,
The largest one, and we don't have another building like that, actually 2 of the larger ones right there, the 3-story one,
okay.
next to the satellite place, the pink one, and the one on 4th Street is attached to another building. So that one's 2 stories, which it's going to be more, and it's going to be expensive because part of the job they're going to have to do by hand.
And I do want to point out that the original number code enforcement came to was 125. I added in a little bit of a cushion just in case to see. Well, I needed to be, I didn't want to have to come back to you.
I'm just teasing. I'm really
So we're,
I just, I don't want to
which
get trouble.
thankfully, because we had a fire last month, and I have another one to add for him.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying 300,000 would comfortably take care of the extra 5 and then give you a little...
For the ones that we can do, that I can say that we can get the 5 done this year.
Is that agreeable to everyone?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Fine.
Question, when those properties come down, that land, who's it belong to?
It still belongs to the property owner. A lot of times the property goes up for taxes because it's been abandoned and it goes on the list of lands. Our lien does still remain on the property for the cost of the demolition.
Thank you.
Okay, so our grand total after $300,000 is?
$3,925,000.
Come on, let's keep spinning.
I love this. Okay.
I thought you said $3 billion for a second.
Okay, Washington Avenue Phase 2.
Yes, this is a continuation of the streetscape improvements that we've done on Washington Avenue from Maury to 2nd. It's extending this from 2nd all the way to Campbell. There's currently a median from 2nd to 4th Street, and we'd have to look at whether or not we could use that or incorporate it into the design, and then extending that design all the way to Campbell. And here are pictures of the median, the current median that's there. This is from 4th Street to Campbell. There's missing sidewalks. There's no median. It's a completely different feel than the rest of Washington Avenue. And then this is the improvements that we've made on the lower portion. And the estimated cost for this is about 1.9.
Okay, folks, we need to decide, I guess we need to really start focusing on this last half, because you've got the Southwest 4th Street streetscape and roadway improvement, and you've got the West Maury Drive sidewalk repair, and the Plum Avenue improvement, and Campbell Drive. So, I know there's not enough money to do all of those. So, opinions, comments on the Washington Avenue Phase 2?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
It's kind of a general comment in kind of all these categories here, and that is, I'm indifferent to any one particular project over another. I guess my ultimate question would be, when I envision using CRA monies, it's for some sort of, revitalization or commercial improvement or something that's going to spur infill projects, generally without the area, and these are all streetscapes, which is great. I mean, it does beautify the neighborhood, and it does make the neighborhood in general more attractive wherever you're talking about. But I just don't know that that's the best, in my mind, the best utilization of CRA dollars. I mean, do we have any other projects that we could allot the monies to, and I know I'm kind of opening up a bigger can of worms, but that's just my general comment on all the streets. I'm indifferent, so whatever this council decides is fine with me. It's going to beautify, all these areas need beautifying. But
Well, if I could, the beautification projects, if the decision is no CRA monies, then you're going to see these projects again as we unveil the full CIP list, and then you can figure out how these fit in with your overall priorities. And there's a whole lot of other projects that you haven't seen yet, so it was going to come down to CRA or no CRA, and if no CRA, then we'll kind of figure out your priorities from there.
And plus the CIP is a 5-year projection, so, it could be a median year 1, sidewalks year 2. It really, when you see the overall picture, there's other ways of looking at it.
And then we also talked about, in conversations with some of you, is as you see your full inventory of projects, if massive streetscape was a big issue for you, then again, we'd look at maybe doing front-ending our PTP funding, bonding off those, or there's other things that we could be talking about once we get a sense of what's important to you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to recommend that also with these streetscape improvements and sidewalks, can they potentially be a part of the CIP list or utilizing the People's Transportation Plan funds to defray the cost for these sidewalk improvements?
If you decide tonight that they're not part of the CRA funding list, then you'll see these again as part of the CIP list, and then figure out if they're to be programmed within the 5-year period of time, and then we'll try to figure out if streetscape were an important priority for you. As you'll see on the list, you're going to see police station, you're going to see city hall, you're going to see other big projects as well. So it'll be a. We'll get the calculators out again and go through that list as well.
If I could just give just a little insight here of 10 years of experience, I can tell you on the CIP list, you're going to have to be making some really tough choices if you don't use this money. I see the heads bobbing over there. If you don't use this money as we have it and as we have to spend it through this CRA allotment that we have, and this is a gift from God that we have all this money, and kudos to the staff for figuring out how we were able to work around the additional money that we didn't think we had. That's all I'm going to say. But so I can see why it's important to use this on the streetscape. I'm just going to tell you what I think is important. I think the Southwest 4th Street streetscape is very important. I've been spending quite a bit of time just driving around and looking. I don't even think there's enough money here for the West Mallory Drive sidewalk repair. Was that estimated? Here's Dennis. Was that estimated from the last supervisor?
Mr. Brea.
Oh, Mr. Brea, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that number is based on the fact that the county has already done some sidewalk improvements in that area, and what this will do is basically fill in the gaps in between where there's still areas that do not have sidewalks.
So they won't be repairing the sidewalks, they'll just be filling in.
Correct. It's basically filling in between what's already there, and a lot of them are new that the county put in for access to bus stops, etc. So so all they did was basically get to the point, let's say for example a bus stop, and they didn't do the rest of that block. So what this money would do would be to finish off the sidewalk all the way to the other end, to make it one continuous sidewalk from end to end.
Mr. Williams, I heard you down there.
Yeah, are you saying that that there were no sidewalks here before?
That's what he's...
I don't think so. I think...
No, there were some there. Yeah, when the county did the repavement of that area, they did some additional sidewalks, but they didn't finish the job. There's still gaps, and that's what this will do.
But I think the problem is, in part of that area, is the junkyard, because they put their cars and stuff. We have a street there that I didn't even know was our street, but they utilize it and put their cars and...
They are using it.
Yeah, and so it, breaks our sidewalks and roads. It's just a problem. And so we can repair it, but I think we're going to have to crack down on the junkyards, our neighbors. Am I right? Maybe I'm wrong. Because when I go through there, we have a road that leads into the junkyard. That's our road, and they just hijacked it. It's not even a road anymore. It's a dirt road now.
Are we discussing Mallory or Campbell?
No, we're talking about
Mallory.
Mallory.
We're talking about Mallory, right?
Yeah,
Jennifer?
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to...
Ain't no junkyards on campus.
That's why I was thrown off a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Councilman Williams, you're absolutely correct. At the west end of Maury, that's where all the junkyards are, and there is a lot of sidewalks there that, continue getting busted from time to time.
Yeah, I thought we had an ordinance in place at one point in time that it was the business's responsibility to repair those sidewalks. I think it was back in June. I can't remember the ordinance, but the property owner, abutting property owner's responsibility to take care of those particular sidewalks. Maybe I'm forgetting, but I have it somewhere.
You're right, Mr. Williams. I think Ms. Crystal could probably comment on that if you'd like.
I don't know, do you?
You're right.
So, how do we put that in place for the junkyards?
How's it with code enforcement now?
The junkyards went before the I believe it's the December 17th special master hearing for operating outside of their walls and above their walls. When we have service on their enforcement order, they will be brought for noncompliance because none of them have complied consistently. The only problem over the years with the junkyards is that it's a back and forth. As far as they get cited, they'll get fined for a day because they'll be out of violation for a day. They'll pull all their cars back in, and for them it can be the cost of doing business.
I think, though, the question is, when they damage city infrastructure, what kind of remedies do we have? So I think we want to look into that and kind of get back to you.
Right.
In the past, with Public Works, with the prior supervisor, for ones that were able to be proven to be the abutting property owner, they would repair it and then assess the cost to the abutting property owner. It would actually not involve a code process. It would be more on the streets end of it, is how it was done in the past.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm fine. We can move on.
So can I'm going to skip to Washington Avenue just for a second and go to the Southwest 4th Street. Are we all in agreement, or do we have any negative responses on the Southwest 4th Street?
Not so much the Southwest 4th Street. I think I'm with Councilman Shelley on this, where when I'm looking at these projects, they're all for improvement, the look of the area. And when I'm thinking about how our CRA dollars are to be used, I'm looking for something that's going to be a multiplier effect that's going to spur business and make a difference in that. And that's where I would like to see, this money kind of head. Now, I guess the question is, what projects do we have that this could go to? Or if there are no projects, then, and because of time that we need to put this money on the ground, are we going to these streetscapes?
Well, there is one more on the list, which is the West Homestead Elementary, so I think you'd want to factor that into your... I don't know, Rick, you didn't get to that one yet?
No, we have not. No,
but I'm with you, Councilwoman Waldman, on that 4th Street piece.
And if we don't use the money that we have available here, if it goes into the CIP, it could take 5 years before we see the completion of any of these streetscapes. Am I right in that?
That really depends on the council, which I know is yourself as well, when you look at those projects, the priorities that you choose. A project like Southwest 4th Street, and that's the whole shebang for $1 million. So, we're retrofitting the lights that are already there, so you could put Christmas lights up. It's repaving the road as well as extending, doing sidewalk repairs and putting in different planters. So we can, if the board so chooses, go back to Southwest 4th Street and try to see what we can do with the design to bring the number down.
Rick, if I can make a suggestion, I know you mentioned briefly, but give the council some ideas of what we're going to have to be fighting against if we don't use this money for some of these streetscapes. You mentioned the police station. I think Mr. Gretz has mentioned the police just some of the examples that they're going to have to prioritize. I knew I'd find something.
So basically, what you're saying, Chairwoman Waldman, is basically, let's finish these out, because we have other projects coming down the pipe.
You got to wait. Maybe if we let Mr. Brea answer that, and then you'll have the floor.
Okay.
Okay, when it comes to these transportation projects, which are basically what these are, improvements of transportation corridors, if you don't use the money from the CRA and we move these projects to the general CIP, of course, these projects are not going to be in competition with a lot more projects than what they have here. In essence, all the east-west corridors, north and south corridors that we have outside of the CRA area are going to be competing against these projects as well. Improvements to Chrome Avenue on the north side, 2nd Avenue, Northwest 2nd Avenue on the west side, on the east side. You have Southwest 162nd Avenue, which there's a portion that's still one lane in each direction. All those projects, for example, just that one project on 162nd Avenue, it's close to $4 million because it includes a bridge. So those are the type of projects that are all looking at the same pot of money to get done. So what happens is, we'll eventually get to them, but we can't do them in the same amount of time, so obviously they have to be spread out in the next 5 years or so. So some of these projects may move back, or they may be more a priority to be done, but they're just going to be in competition with other projects.
Well, just for full disclosure purposes, you always have the option of financing. So I just repeat that only because I don't want you to feel that, there aren't any other options. Financing is a decision that you make, and you factor it into your budget, so you could do a lot more projects if you borrow, and that's just, some cities do that. This city is fairly under-leveraged, and your debt is fairly low. On the other hand, you've consistently taken a fairly conservative view when it comes to borrowing, so that's really a
We like that, George.
Okay, so let's just get back to this. The Southwest Street scape, do we have a consensus on the dais? I vote yes to take it out of the CRA.
You can't get any hesitation from me on this one.
Okay, Mr. Shelley?
I'm in favor.
Yeah, of all the streetscapes, I think that is the one that's in the most need and would do the most benefit. So I would agree with that.
Well, we don't have enough for all of them, so that's why I would just pick that Southwest 4th Street first. So, yes?
If I can just add to that.
Yes.
Are you finished?
Yeah, no, I did say that was fine.
I was just looking at all the streetscape projects and determining if we had to rank them, which one would rank at the top of the list, or my list per se, and I would say it would be the Southwest 4th Street streetscape and roadway improvement project.
Thank you very much. Mr. Maldonado?
I agree 100%.
Okay, so we have $1,000,000, put my glasses on,
50.
$1,050,000, so that gives us a grand total of?
You have left $2,875,000.
You're always going to remember this night. Julio?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, maybe to help you out a little bit, the Chrome Avenue improvement projects there for $675,000, of all these projects, that's probably the one that has the least amount of possibilities to get done, just because we're dealing with the state when it comes to that project, and everything would have to go through them. And that one, if there was one of these projects that had a harder chance to get done, that would be the next one that I would say would probably, the probability of that one being able to get done are the smallest of all those 5 projects.
That's the circle.
Correct, and that's probably, it would be very tough to get that done. Yes.
I was just going to ask about that question.
So let's go then to the Maui Drive. Is $200,000 enough, you think? Or should we say 300? And then we'll see if it's important enough on the dais. What's the answer? 200?
Leave it at 200 and
200?
finish it up there.
Well, again, this is one of those ongoing, you could see how far $200,000 goes in a year, and then revisit it in the CRA budget next year, or look at in the CIP. So there's a few other options there.
Okay, so... Okay, Mr. Maldonado says stick with the 200. If we have any change left over, we'll go back. Ms. Faircloth McCormick? Good? Okay. Mr. Shelley? It's fine. Mr. Williams?
You won't get any problems out of me on that one.
Well, I'm hoping I don't get any problems.
Except...
Yes, sir.
Except that I think those property owners on that, what do they call them? Junkyards or recycling places that they call themselves. I really think we ought to put the costs on them too. I don't know how we're going to do that, but I think they need to be held responsible.
I think code enforcement is probably going to start looking into that with our ordinance in place and fining them appropriately, and so. Well, thank you. I agree with you, Mr. Williams. As a former junkyard owner, I didn't do that.
I'm so appreciative.
Put that on the record. Okay, so let's move back up then to Washington Avenue, $1.9 million.
Wait, before we go to $1.9 million, Chrome Avenue improvement.
Well, the Chrome Avenue improvement was the 675, which is the Circle Street, which is until we get the traffic off of Chrome Avenue, the trucks off Chrome Avenue, it's impossible to do that. So do we have a consensus just to mark that off the list?
No.
I agree.
Me too.
Now, Mr. Brea kind of just mentioned that was one of those important things that won't be.
No, he said it's the least.
Is it the least or the most?
He said least.
Which one are you talking about?
Chrome Avenue.
Chrome Avenue has the least probability of getting done.
It's not going to happen.
It's going to be the hardest one to get.
I was trying to picture a semi doing that the other day.
Exactly.
I'll do that.
So, okay, now what's your answer?
Okay,
Huh?
we'll find it.
Okay, we're fine. We're fine, Mr. Williams. We're fine,
Are you
Mr.
gonna
Shelley.
Just to clarify, though, are we taking it off the list, or are we?
Taking it off the list.
In other words, we're removing it.
We're removing it. Okay, now let's move back up to Washington Avenue. Any comments or questions? You understand that the Washington Avenue on the the north side that already has a median strip, so they're just going to bring the median strip all the way down to Campbell to make it uniform. But my question was, there's not going to be any parking, any angled parking, right? I mean, except it's what's there, because those are already established buildings with sidewalks and parking lots.
We did not look at on-street parking, angled on-street parking. You currently, I believe there is parking along the side. I'd actually, let me rephrase that. I'm not sure if there's parking there, but we can find out. We didn't estimate that in our costs.
Sorry?
Yes, the portion that is in front of the lot that the city hall was going to go in, that portion does have parking, on-street parking. The idea, we still haven't looked at, on the north of that, the idea was if we're going to put parking, not to make it angled parking, but parallel parking, sort of basically to match what was done in the first phase of Washington Avenue. That way we continue the same cross-section across the whole roadway.
Okay, I said that just the opposite before. I apologize. I said north and I meant south. So I apologize for that. So how important is it to bring that, excuse me, to bring that median strip down to Campbell? How important is it to all of you?
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Shelley.
just a question going back to the parking. Being that we had the discussion about how important it is to have parking downtown, the angled parking, does that not provide more cars per area than, say, the parallel parking would, as far as getting more cars within a smaller area? Would that not be better to keep that type of parking there?
Yes, it does. The only thing is we have to look and make sure that we have enough right-of-way to be able to fit the parallel parking there. But we'll take it doesn't change the cost of the roadway because all we're doing is paving right up to the sidewalk area, which is what we're going to do anyways. But it may not have enough room there for us to be able to put angled parking on both sides of the road. Maybe we'll have to make a decision. One side will have angled parking, the other side will have parallel parking, or both parallel. You know, it's just, that's a decision that will be made during the design process. But the idea is to continue the parking along the roadway. And as long as we have enough right-of-way, then we should be okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but all that on the west side of that portion, that north portion of Washington, that's all businesses that's already built out to the road. I mean, there's the sidewalk and then there's the road. So there's no room for any...
There's a huge right-of-way there that's only being used basically by 2 lanes, but there's a lot of open area on both sides that is really not being utilized properly. What this will do, what we envision this project to do is to add, of course, landscape to both sides, you know, some well-marked parking areas, and also medians that are, again, landscaped to extend the look of the south side of Washington Avenue all the way to Campbell.
So, Mr. Shelley, is your question...
Well, my question really, I guess, I have a little bit better time supporting this or justifying the use of the monies if it's going to create more parking for the downtown area, because I think that is a benefit that we're all trying to accomplish, and versus just putting in a median and some landscaping. So if we can find a way to engineer this thing to create the maximum number of parking spaces for this particular project, then I think that is a benefit, and that is something I think is beneficial and I would support. So that's kind of what I'm getting to with it, is if we focus more on how do we maximize parking versus the landscaping, then I think that this is something that's good for the downtown area.
So does that 1.9 million, would that be enough money to incorporate parking into that?
Yeah, it shouldn't change the price at all, because it's whether we strike the pavement to have parallel parking or angled parking, the cost is basically the same. One thing what we can do is, now that we know that the focus will be on adding parking, we can come back with some alternatives for you. We can get some engineering firms to do some quick sketches of some typical cross sections based on the amount of space that we have here now, so that you can then say, all right, this is what we want our street to look like in this area. And yes, what we'll do is we'll emphasize the additional parking to make sure that we can maximize it as much as possible.
So when, Mr. Maldonado, yes or no?
Yes.
CRA funds, yes?
Yes.
No? Yes?
No.
No. Okay, Mr. Shelley?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
You won't get any problems out of me, right?
Well, I'm going to vote yes for that, because I think that that it's just important to get some of that. There's so much congestion on that south side of Washington and 4th. I mean, there's a lot of congestion.
Believe it or not, on the weekend, that little place is, a lot of people are there, so...
They say that ice cream shop's the best ice cream in town, but I haven't been there yet.
It is, and that parking will come in handy.
Need to stay away from there. So we are moving forward then. What is our grand total, Carla?
Madam Chair, you're at $775,000.
Okay. I'm just going to give you my opinion on the Campbell Drive, because I put everybody else in their spot, making them go first. I just think it's a different, there's $4 million, it's so much money. And you're talking about west of Palm Avenue, correct?
Correct, that would be west of Palm Avenue.
I've been up and down that road and up and down that road, and it's just a different dynamic as to what we have on the east side of Chrome. You know, the businesses stop there at First Avenue, and then it's just different. So I can't see spending $4 million. That's just my personal opinion. Mr. Williams.
On which project?
Campbell.
Sorry. Oh, West Campbell.
From Chrome to Redland? I mean, no, from...
Chrome to Redland, right, Rick?
That's more of a residential
Yes.
area, and you're spending $4 million on what now? What is it? What are you going to do?
This project will basically widen that roadway to make it 3 lanes instead of 2 lanes. What it is now, basically, you'd have a continuous turn lane in the center, plus 2 lanes, 1 in each direction, and again some swale areas on either side of the roadway. But you're right, there are very few businesses in that area. It's mostly residential. So the idea was not to make it curb and gutter, which would mean making the roadway go all the way to the sidewalks on both sides, and you'd have like a very large, pavement road, typical to what we have on the more business type of roadways. But again, it is mostly commercial, residential in that area, so,
With the exception of the middle school there.
yeah, the middle school is right in the middle of it.
Any comments or questions or direction? I'm looking for them.
Add it to your all's, capital improvement project.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, since
Happy birthday, Rick.
Since y'all have a wish list coming forward, just add it to the wish list.
Mr. Shelley?
Yeah, I think we push it off to the CIP. I don't think it's something to use for the CRA.
Okay. Next is, and I have the old sheet, so it's the West Homestead.
West Homestead Elementary. This is a proposal from the Dade School District. Basically, they're looking to create a math and science K through 8 magnet school in what is currently West Homestead Elementary. They've been looking to partner with CRAs throughout Miami-Dade, one specifically in Miami Beach. From what I understand, they'd be looking for the CRA to finance this project, which includes tearing down certain buildings, building new classrooms, reorienting the school to Lucy, adding new administrative offices, that sort of thing, that we would finance the entire project. And again, we came up with, the original proposal was for a little bit over $6 million, but again, that's with everything that they could possibly want in the school. But they would pay back half of the financing over time. They'd be looking for a deferred payment, 6 or 7 years, but in the end, they'd be paying back their portion of the proposal. So whether or not this is something that you want to do with the funds that you have remaining, or if it's something that you'd want to finance, those are open for discussion. This is something that they feel would really benefit the downtown, the Southwest, and create a feeder for their Mast Academy and the other academies that they have.
Sir?
Madam
Yes, sir.
Chair, I like the idea. West Homestead, I visit there often, and even tried to help repair a road there, but it's not our road, so we can't do too much. But West Homestead serves a migrant population in the Southwest area. The school is really run down. They don't really have enough of really to even keep up the maintenance of it. And I'm for monies being released to help. That will really help that area in its aesthetic ability, and also not only that, but that school, West Homestead, really serves a very important sector of our community. And I'm willing, we've done it for charter schools, we've given land, and so I'm really in favor of this project. Unfortunately, we don't have what they're asking for, but I'm sure that we can work out something. But I'm a very big proponent of this, especially in schools, and some of the plans that I see, I think it's going to serve that area well. So I'm very in support of this school upgrade.
So let me make sure I understand. You're saying the $775,000 that we have left, that's the correct number, right? That
Yes.
we enter into a project with West Homestead, maybe classroom renovation, or just, is that what you're saying, Mr. Wicks?
I'm
project?
saying, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it entails, Madam Chair. But what I'm saying is that the school definitely needs some aid and assistance, and I think since we're reinvesting back into that community, which have into that school, which has served so many persons in that community, that it's probably one of the worst schools in Homestead when you look at the the building, and if you just go inside, you'd just be amazed of some of the outdated material and just the stuff that they have to try
I
to
agree
keep up
with you, and I get so angry that the school board doesn't, when we pay 39% of our tax dollars,
Yeah.
if every dollar we pay goes to the school board, you know, you want the best for your kids, but, so it probably wouldn't be under that same program where they would,
Right.
in other words, it would just be a donation towards a project, correct? Mr. Williams, that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
yeah. Because I know, I mean, when we talk about financing this kind of deal for a school, public school, you know, I don't know how that would look. You know, I can't tell you what kind of arrangement that would look like. But I am in favor of it being done. I just don't know. I need more information. I want to be like my colleague here. I need some facts and information.
So could we direct staff to go to the school board and find out a project that we could do for $775,000 that could be a project from our city to that particular school? Are my colleagues saying that that would be a good thing? Sir?
Madam Chair, I have no problem with that. Councilman Williams beat me to the punch. I was going to ask for more facts and information. But my only thing is one thing I want to make sure of is that, you know, when this was envisioned, you know, $4 to $6 million would have accomplished a whole lot and really done a lot for that particular area and that school. The only thing I want to make sure of is that if we're going to give $775,000 or whatever we have left, that it makes an impact of sufficient nature to be worth the donation. I don't want it to be where one classroom gets upgraded lighting and a projector and they're out of money and they didn't do anything. That's not a good, I don't think a good use of those funds. But if we can make a big enough impact with those funds, then yes, I support doing something for that school.
Okay, so we're going to, is that all right with you, Ms.?
No, if I just may speak on
Certainly.
this project. Let me just preface my comments by saying that I work for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, but I am not lobbying for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. What I'm doing, in fact, is advocating for what's in the best interest of this community and these students. And I just hate the fact that we kind of visited this item last, so this project is getting leftovers per se. But besides that, I feel that that number is really bloated. I wasn't going for the $4 to $6 million. But moving on, I look at the goals and the vision for this mayor and council. And as I look in this beautiful book that you all published, it said the vision for this council as far as education was to attract and support development of quality public, private, and charter schools. And I look at the CRA. West Homestead is within the CRA. It's built in 1960, deteriorating building. And then I look at these projects, and a lot of these projects are pure brick and mortar in every sense of the word. I've heard about our residents deserve these amenities. We're trying to get a return on our investment. What better way to invest in this community and invest in these children who need this support? I guess I'm so passionate about it. It's because I have a deep understanding of what it needs to move these kids and not a surface level understanding. So I think this board has the opportunity to make a difference, just like the city of Miami made a difference with the Frederick Douglass project, just like the city of Miami Lakes, the city of Pinecrest, the city of Palmetto Bay. They have an intimate relationship with their schools. We have the education committee, and yes, we're doing great things, but what have we done substantively? These kids in the Southwest deserve it. And I think this council needs to move full steam ahead and support this project as much as possible, as opposed to just rendering leftovers. These kids have got leftovers their whole life. We gave the Keysgate Charter School that land for $1 a year for 30 years. You all voted for it. And at the end of 30 years, you're getting $30. And Dennis Maytown, when we asked them to use that property for the summer program, what did they tell us?
They told me that only Keys Gate students can come to the summer camp, and I never heard from them since.
Only Keys Gate students, when that property belonged to all these students in this community. We gave them that land, and we couldn't even go back and use the property. They had a land that they could have built their school on. They didn't build it on that. Did we do a land swap? No. They still have that property sitting there. This project is not asking for a handout, but in fact a leg up on the competition for the students that these kids have to compete against. So if we were so pro Keys Gate and giving them that land for $1 a year, then why are we having a difficult time with supporting this project and saying, oh, let's give it the leftovers? Mr. Maldonado?
It's a hard act to follow. Not that it's an act, because I know it's straight from the heart. I know what you mean. Like you, I attended the schools here, and you know, went to Campbell Drive Elementary Junior, and any of these schools that could get any help, it's well needed. And I've been saying time and time again, the better we make our education system here in Homestead, the better the Homestead is going to be. Having said that, I understand, you know, what Ms. Faircloth McCormick is asking for, and yes, we did make a deal with Charter School USA, and for $1 a year. You know, to me, when I made that decision, it was property that was sitting there, not doing anything. They did pay for the whole project out of themselves. And the benefit there was that the students would be able to attend it from anywhere in Homestead. And so, to me, it wasn't really a cost that was coming out of pocket in reference to that. I guess I would have a question and to Rick, where you had mentioned, you know, this amount of dollars, a portion would come back, so in other words, we're financing this project.
Their discussion was we would finance the entire project. I don't think they were looking for an upfront cash donation.
Yeah, they were help, like you said, not a hand.
And again, just for the record, I've had an initial meeting with them to just discuss concepts, and I gave them clear expectations of what this process is. You know, if you want to allocate $775,000 and they're willing to match that, that's, you know, over $1.5 million. And we have at least a starting point to talk with them. So if the direction of the board is, let's set this money aside to see what kind of partnership we can come up with, that's something we can talk about.
There's another thing, as you think about possibilities, is if you like the concept of helping them with their financing with some sort of a commitment for paying back, then you could certainly, that's an option you could do as well.
I think that would be a good option.
Right.
So moving forward, I think, you know, and I'm glad that Ms. McCormick is here to kind of help lead our effort in the city of Homestead to help out our schools, and I think it's just something that we need to pursue as a council. When we have our visioning sessions, I know last time, 2 years ago, one of the main portions was education, so this is a step in the right direction. So I guess we need to move. I think your idea, what you're saying, if they can have a matching, maybe for now, or work out something with them, I think that would be a good starting point, and then continue to move forward to see if we could actually go with this process of if we're going to be financing. Can we finance the whole item, and, you know, what's the payback on it? So, but obviously, like Councilman Shelley would say, we need a plan on this.
We need more facts.
We need more information, more facts. We want to help out. That's our goal, but let's just get our facts in order and make it a win-win.
Did you want to allocate more cash and revisit some of the other projects? Did you want to talk about exploring city financing the portion of the project? We could just get some direction on some of those questions as well.
First of all, I think we need to sit down with them, because right now we're talking hypotheticals, and we don't have a lot of stuff before us that we can make a good decision on. My statement was, I don't have a problem in looking at financing, or I figure out a way to do it because, you know, whatever we commit to, that's what I'm willing to do. But I think we want to make sure that we sit down with them, see exactly what they're asking, how much is the total project. Maybe we should postpone this and have a workshop from the school board to come in with us, sit down, tell us exactly what they're trying to do, and then we can go from there. Because right now we don't have that. We have passion. We have those. We're all saying we want to help and make West Homestead the best it can be. But I think we really need to sit down with the school board and have them come and make a presentation to us and see where we go from there. And I think that's the best way to do that at this point.
You know, the only thing, if I could add, though, is that if there's a possibility that you may go with more than $775,000, then you might want to look at the other projects that you've already allocated, because if you say it's only $775, no change on the others, then we're walking out the door and starting the process moving forward on those. So just some idea from you all on where you stand on additional funding for this project.
If I may, I think that, and I meant it when I said I want the school board to look and see that we need help here. When Gateway was built, and we had to fight to make that a public school, that was the first new public school we had here in over 30 years. And now they've built Mass Academy, but I agree with Councilwoman that that's a different, first of all, it's just a different academic. Do you agree? I mean, it's a different, the children are different. They're studying pharmaceuticals. You know, these kids are just trying to get by in the Southwest, and I know that school very, very well. But I agree that we, this is what I think. I think that we should sit down with the school board, as Mr. Williams said, bring them in, let's have a workshop, let's hear what they have to say. But probably the $775,000 is not going to do much. But I am in favor of talking to the school board, but I want them to also, and I think everybody on this dais would agree, they need to step up to the plate and not just put their money into schools in the county that maybe people just don't, you know, have the courage to speak up and fight for. But I think it's a good project, and I see where you're coming from. The $775,000 now is just kind of hanging out there in limbo.
Well, or more importantly, if you have that meeting and you decide, boy, we love this and we want to do more money, are we holding off on all the other projects until you make that decision, or you think there's a...
No.
I don't think anybody should hold off.
I'm sorry. I think that that these other projects need to go forward. What I'm saying is that what we have already said, that some of these items on this list that we have, some is meant for other areas that we can pay for. What I'm saying is I don't want to stop progress. I want to continue the progress, also including West Homestead Elementary. I just think that we need a little bit more concrete of a plan or direction to see where the school board comes. I mean, Rick, you're doing a great job, you know, with the pictures and stuff, but I don't know what else done that, you know. I like that for us to have another workshop. The city contact the school board for them to come in, and then all this other creative financing that you all keep throwing up. Then I think that will be the appropriate time to look at that at that moment.
Sure.
So, yeah. Mr. Williams, are you saying that you still want to keep that $775,000? I'll just use a word in escrow for West Homestead, or do you want to go?
No, I think it ought to stay there until we, you know, I think there's more needed, and you know, just like with the other projects that we have, with the Seminole Theater, you know, we're looking at other creative ways to complete that project.
So then, can I have a comment from each of you as far as do you agree with that, keeping that $775,000 in a separate, just holding that back until we have the workshop with the school board and find out what as Mr. Shelley would say, more facts.
Sure.
And, or again, you know, I always worry about losing that $775,000 if the commission at any given time or Tallahassee says, damn.
One of the important things is if you are comfortable with earmarking that money for the school, so that if we get questioned by the county, we say we've earmarked those for the school.
Okay.
We come back to you with a concrete plan. Let's assume, for example, this is a $4 million project, and they're willing to pay for half.
Got
And
it.
there's some sort of a dollar-wise, we're getting fairly close to, you know, if you ended up financing the rest over time, the payments
Right.
may be very well, you might feel
And
comfortable
yes.
with it. So
And
we
if it
can
helps
come
those
back.
children, yeah.
But if you're comfortable with at least earmarking the 775, then at least that puts us in a closer
Okay.
position to being
Okay.
safer with the county.
I am. Is everybody else okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Can I just make just a comment? I know you had mentioned that to sit down with the school board to kind of get more information as far as hypotheticals, but there is a plan.
Mhm.
I think that the plan that has been derived from the region superintendent is more detailed than some of the plans that we've seen tonight. So it's just a matter of you sitting down and getting an understanding of the complete project. And if I should say so myself, I think the district has stepped up to the plate because they've offered to pay for half of it, when some charter schools have come in and just wanted free land. So I think they have done their due diligence to step up to the plate to support this school. There is a plan, and when you sit down and get an understanding of that plan, I think you'll be very happy with what they're proposing for this school.
It's just we see so often, and I'm not on the education committee, but we see so often the other schools as well coming to us in the past saying that they're in such dire need of this and all these things, and
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I've kind of not really pushed on, at least let's focus on one school, but, you know, I could name you projects, Camel Drive Elementary, they don't have, you know, they were asking for a new playground, there's so, every school has great needs. So if we start going on the road of what the school needs, you know, we're going to have a long list. And so, you know, moving forward, I think we need to, you know, the workshop not only entails on the plan that this school involves, but also the other schools of Homestead, because that, I think what's going to happen is that, well, if they got it, you know, why can't we get it? But in this case, it was more of a CRA.
In the CRA.
It was a CRA, so that's where the difference is on this. But nonetheless, I mean, yes, all our schools need our support, the public schools. Now, my education committee board members are consisted of public school members, because they're the ones that need more help. There are no charter school members on there. That could be looked upon as unfair, but that was my plan, and in essence, to focus on the public schools here in Homestead. So, again, the regional superintendent does sit on my education committee board, so if you have a plan in reference to this, we'd definitely like to see it as soon as possible and just move forward from there. So earmarking it, I would be in favor for it. I think we all are. Moving forward.
okay. So
What is the consensus?
the consensus is that we're, I think, all in favor of moving forward and listening to what the school board has to say. We haven't seen that plan you're talking about. But I think once we see the plan and hear the plan, I think we're going to take a vote at that time. But I can tell you that I'm in favor of it.
So what is the timeline?
Oh, through the manager, I will call the people at the school district tomorrow and start trying to figure out when they can come down as quickly as possible. The numbers for this are in your current packet. They should be your final attachment, so you can actually look at the breakdown from the county. But
I'm sorry,
Sure.
just for, because I know that they uploaded for my iPad, is that something you got, any new information has been given to staff?
there's a sheet with a breakdown of costs that were printed out.
Give it to them so they can upload it.
I can give you mine.
It's in this book?
It should be.
Now, I want to make sure that I'm saying what I like to say, that is being conveyed properly. I'm saying that we advocate the $775,000 as a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have the workshop to see what the real numbers are, you know, what the numbers are, and the creative ways of, we talk of financing. But I think we ought to have that to be earmarked for West Homestead.
And that way, once we find out what the other numbers are, we can go from there, because half could be, which we're, as you said, George, before, we're probably halfway there if it's at 4 million. You know, so I think, you know, a portion there. So I'm in favor of keeping the $700 and some odd dollars earmarked for West Homestead, pending the workshop.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right.
Good job. That was a tough one, so.
And I had no idea. Mr. Manager, is there anything you'd like to add? Mr. Attorney? Okay. Then we'll adjourn the meeting. I think it's 7:35 almost. Thank you.
Thank you.